Now, EqualFuture uses a new approach to help 100 million underserved people build stronger financial lives through access to honest, uncompromised advice and simple retirement and insurance solutions. Using new gamified tools backed by machine learning, EqualFuture will inform, support, and engage people in making smarter financial decisions. Chloe James, Group Director of Media and Communications at RFI Group, will now moderate a session with Joyce Phillips, founder and Chief Executive Officer of EqualFuture, to give us the background story of the company and the future it is building towards. Let's now join Chloe and Joyce to hear more about the story behind EqualFuture.
Singapore FinTech Festival looking a little bit different this year. Hi, I'm Chloe James. I'm the Group Director of Media and Communications for RFI Group, and I am really delighted to be, I'm delighted interviewing Joyce Phillips. I wish we were in Singapore together. I'm in Toronto and she's in San Francisco. But Joyce, so great to connect with you again.
Indeed. Thank you, Chloe. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, well, so we've got a great half an hour together and we have a really interesting conversation about a really fascinating career you've had to date, 25 plus years long, C-level executive roles at some of the biggest firms out there, Citi, we're talking ANZ, American Life, and now you are a startup founder based in San Francisco. I thought we'd start a little bit about your background. So sort of what brought you to this point as startup founder, going back to some of those really huge roles you've held in the past?
Well, thank you, Chloe. I have had a fantastic career working for some of the best companies in the financial space, starting as leading the consumer franchise in Japan for Citi, and then getting promoted to head the international retail franchise across 42 markets, and then moving into insurance as the COO of American Life Insurance Company, a division of AIG. And then moving more recently to the group managing director of innovation and marketing, in addition to the CEO of global wealth management at Australia New Zealand Banking Group. And I've had the wonderful pleasure to work with world-class teams and learn from, and teams that were really focused always on delivering innovative new customer solutions. It's been a great ride. And now I'm here in San Francisco, a couple of blocks from Twitter and Uber in the heart of Soma. And I'm focused on continuing the journey of helping people make good financial decisions. So I'm working on EqualFuture, a FinTech platform that's delivering financial wellness to underserved communities.
I love it. And as we've spoken about, this financial wellness passion that you have and empowering good financial decision making is such a huge part of EqualFuture Corp. So tell me about starting from scratch. So as a founder, loads of founders always log into Singapore FinTech Festival in person and now online this year. What's it been like to start from scratch, the sort of the business model and everything you've created and the success you've had so far?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm starting from scratch. I'm actually continuing a journey where I've been delivering innovative solutions for customers and particularly helping them make good financial decisions for the future. So it is a little bit different. It's about, instead of working within the scope of C-suite roles to deliver that, I'm really taking a step out of that space and focused on building this platform on my own. And it's been fantastic. I've always been a hands-on leader, which is really critical to make that transition. And I've been able to build a team and work with a group of people that I know and trust, that I've worked with in the past. And it's been a fantastic experience so far.
Yeah. Has it been scary at all to step outside of those sort of huge organizations and then, build a team of your own? Although you've probably always built teams within the businesses you've been in before, but tell me about any of perhaps the fear moments as a founder, beginning something really off your own back, and just some of those experiences. And I mean, I know you'd thrive in anything, but just really interested to hear a little bit about that.
Oh, it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. That's for sure. You're spot on there. I think coming back to the U.S. From Australia, and really taking a fresh lens to this market and saying, what's relevant from my past? What can I build here that can make a difference? And it took 6 months to really study the market, understand what was really required, and then really start to build that team, set up the company, and really get a design in place so we can move forward. And of course, getting seed investment and all of that, that's pretty new, and it's pretty scary at times. Absolutely. So you really have to be resilient. There's a lot of lonely days when you're starting out, and you're really trying to convince people that you have a fabulous idea and that you have the capability to build this, and really you have a PowerPoint presentation initially, and it's a little frightening until you start to get some traction, but you just keep going, and the passion, and of course the skills that you've built and the trust of people that you've worked with in the industry is so critical.
Onto that passion and that sort of initial idea, and I know it wasn't an initial idea because when we met in sunny Sydney back in, we were discussing this. It's got to be about sort of 6 or 7 years ago. Feels like a lifetime to me. I don't know about you. A lot's changed within that time, certainly in my life and obviously in yours as well. We met at ANZ, and you were delivering an EqualFuture paper, which got huge amount of traction in Australia. You had the Prime Minister there at the time, and support of the organisation, obviously. But this was this real passion in financial wellness, particularly amongst women, that you've really brought now to the trademarked company EqualFuture Corp. What's really sparked that kind of real drive for that financial wellness among consumers in you?
Well, my father died when I was 13, and I was, raised by a single mom. I had 4 siblings, and I wouldn't be here today if my parents hadn't made some good choices when they were younger. And that's so critical. And I think every day how grateful I am to be where I am at this moment in time. And I'd like every household to have access to information to make good decisions for their future. I looked at the data in Australia particularly, and I was looking at every decade of life, women had accumulated less in their retirement savings than men. And some of that was attributable to wage gap, but there were other systems at work to hold women back. And that's where I really wanted to try to make a difference. And so when we met at that launch, we had commissioned a white paper to get the data on the table, to benchmark where we are, and then really try to re-examine systems around retirement savings to make sure they're inclusive, and what could we be doing differently. And we did a number of innovative things, including launching a really lower cost retirement solution, and really focusing on how to catch women up in that space, and made a number of recommendations that were adopted by the government in Australia, which was really rewarding.
Yeah, that's an absolutely incredible story, and thank you so much for sharing that. That's an incredibly personal story that has spurred you onto who you are. I really appreciate you sharing that. You're a career marketer, within your roles. I know you ran marketing and M&A. You've always been that hands-on person in the business. You've had huge teams working under you. You've won, I should mention, a Cannes Lion Marketing Festival Award. How do you feel over the past, let's just say 5 years or so, marketing has changed, and messaging and distribution, and with the framework of FinTech, obviously, there's so much out there. There's so much noise in the FinTech space. How do you set yourself apart when it comes to, you're laughing, right? So how do you set yourself apart when it comes to marketing and distribution of a fantastic product when there are a lot of fantastic products out there?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to some of the work that I did recently in Australia that, as you mentioned, was recognized at the Cannes Lion Festival it was really about innovating marketing to go along with the innovative solutions. So you really have to keep both up to speed. And of course, now it's about influencers, it's about social, it's about creating content that people willingly want to send out to the universe. It's not about purchasing media any longer. And I remember we had sponsored the Australian Open and the Shanghai Masters, and we had experimented with one of the first 3D holograms of Keith Urban up on stage, and Novak got up there and jammed with him. And it was planned as a content event, and knowingly that that he would send that out to his social, millions of followers, that everyone at the stadium was recording that and sending that out into the universe, and creating a bit of buzz. And the same thing happened. I know you attended the launch of that women's retirement program where Julia Gillard attended, was a keynote speaker. But there we had Jane Campion, one of the, of course, one of the most awarded female directors, who helped us tell a story about how girls' brains develop faster, we speak faster than boys, we get better grades in school, more of us get university degrees, but then when you look 20 years down the road, in politics, in government, in business, the women don't maintain that natural advantage that we started with. And it's about systems that aren't designed to continue that success. And she told a beautiful story, of course, through a media piece that went on to win the, of course, was recognized at the Cannes Lion Festival. So that was also about understanding and nailing that insight and having people willingly send that out into the universe so it becomes a bit viral. Here now I'm back working on EqualFuture, and EqualFuture is not, it's focused, of course, on inclusive financial wellness, but it's really about helping everyone make good financial choices so they have a shot at an equal future. And that's kind of the branding. But I'm actually, while I always focus on human-centered design, I'm a consumer person in heart and soul. I'm actually scaling through a B2B model here. So I have a great brand that my corporate partners can use, or we can gray label. But I'm really out to efficiently scale up, and we're in beta with a few corporates, and testing, how that might be deployed. But I'm very open to really getting these tools in as many households as possible. And so I'm taking a very different approach.
Yeah, it's incredible. I remember the Jane Campion piece, actually. That's really just resonated with me and has sparked my memory again. And as I mentioned to you, I had a daughter last year, my first child. And
Yes.
so it really just resonates with me, this conversation, I think she's brilliant, of course, but they speak faster, they do all of these other things faster, and in school really sort of excel and succeed. And then it's so interesting that you make note that then it just kind of gets sort of chipped away, and you're obviously building a business model around changing that. And we've spoken about sort of empowerment. So speaking about the consumer, you said that you are consumer driven, and I know that's always been such a focus of all of your work across your roles, and I know that about you, Joyce. How is the consumer of today sort of really changing? I know we're talking about how they sort of I guess digest content, if you like. What are some other kind of customer attributes you're seeing? And perhaps even in some of those younger consumers, are you seeing a certain level of, a sophisticated customer who wants to do a bit of research, looks out for a product like yours, and is that a bit of a gap in the market, if you like, that some of the fintechs are really meeting?
Well, I think you're seeing, and it's only fueled by the pandemic, but of course, the acceleration of digitization, and so that's really critical. And I think there's, certainly in certain sectors, particularly in the financial sector, it's pushed people perhaps faster into that space. And I think there's no turning back once they get accustomed to being able to get services and get help through that digital environment. I think workplace is changing, the workplace environment's changing, employee benefits is changing. I think there's a renewed focus on understanding there's a connection between financial wellness and wellness in general, and how employers and other members of the community can help their customers and their workforce really adapt to uncertainty in the future, emergencies that come up, and really plan for the future. So I think there's going to be profound continued economic issues in certain segments. And I think we're all going to have to think through how we can really help people get back on track, help people start to build back what they've lost, and make great financial decisions for their future.
Yeah, particularly in this time. I mean, it took us, I think, 15 minutes to get there, but you mentioned the pandemic first. So COVID obviously is such a huge, that's why we're doing this on Zoom. Otherwise, we'd be on stage together in Singapore and hopefully having a glass of wine afterwards. But yeah, COVID has had such a huge impact, hasn't it? And how are things faring in San Francisco, just from your perspective, in the businesses there?
San Francisco has done pretty well so far because the FinTech companies early on sent their workforce home. So they missed that first wave. It's been pretty calm. I think California is now in that red and teetering on the purple, where we're expecting another lockdown as we go into the holiday season. So I think, I think San Francisco is doing better than a lot of the other markets because it sent the workers home and it hasn't really opened. And I think many of the FinTech companies have said that their workforce can continue like that well through next half of next year. So I think that has helped a lot. But it's very troubling to look at the numbers of people affected, particularly in the U.S. And I'm very distraught about it. It's very sad, and it seems even though the vaccine seems to be near, I think there's still many months to go and many people that need to really be careful and protect themselves.
Yeah, because there's obviously the huge health implications, and then I guess bringing it with a lens of a business like yours, the financial implications and the huge impact this is having on just millions and millions of people around the world. You spoke a little bit before about sort of building the right team and creating the right team. And I'm just interested to hear a little bit about that. And I know other founders out there would be. How have you gone about creating your team? And I know that you have fabulous networks across the world. Have you brought anyone into your business kind of over to the dark side, perhaps, from the corporate world into FinTech, and how are they going?
I have, in fact. I'm largely relying on people that I know and trust that have either known me from parts of the industry, who've worked in my extended family, shall we say, and who are looking for a change. And I think that's really critical, particularly as a startup. You really want to hire the best talent. You have to move quickly. It's such a wonderful blessing to have people that that know each other and have worked together, and we can really we have each other's back, and we can enjoy this kind of sometimes stressful environment. But so I've been blessed being able to assemble a team largely of people that I know from the industry and have worked with me. And I've also developed great relationships with technology partners, which is so critical, that I trust, that deliver fantastic, innovative design and work in collaboration. And so it's been good. Of course, there's been a few people that haven't worked out, that haven't been able to transition from corporate life into a startup. That the fact that you don't have lots of folks to support you, and that you've got to do many, many things yourself, whatever's required. Some people adjust to that better than others. I say, if you were generally into the details and a hands-on manager, you can make that transition much easier than someone perhaps had teams of people that were doing a lot of those jobs for you.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting piece. Did you see yourself doing this? Did you sort of, I guess it's really hard to do like a crystal ball type of thing, but back in
Yes.
those, big roles with the ANZs, with the cities, with the American Lives, did you ever sort of think, down the track, I'm going to go it alone and start something really important to me and really successful?
I've always longed to do this. I've been
I love
reasonably
that.
successful in my corporate roles, so that prolonged it. But I really should have taken a hard look and started this 10 years ago, frankly. I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've been able to, I've had great autonomy. I've had wonderful people that I've worked with and worked for that have really let me innovate and do innovative things. So that has really kept me probably longer in the corporate environment than I was probably meant to be. And so I really, if I had any wish, I wish I started really out on my own sooner. And I'm really finding it tremendously rewarding. And I think I'm really making a difference.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that's very inspirational for the folks who are watching. So there you go. Go and give it a go.
Yes.
Start your own business.
Absolutely. Go for it. And by the way, you can always go back. There's no shortage of companies that want to hire people that went out and tried to do something on their own, learn from that experience. It will not put you back. So do not have fear about that.
That's really fabulous advice, Joyce. Now, my passion for women in FinTech. I've got a Breaking Banks show backed by Brett King, Women in FinTech, and a Women in Leadership series for RFI Group. It's something I've always been really passionate about. You've been a champion. I interviewed you for my Women in Leadership series many moons ago when we first met. You're a board member for Board for Girls in New York City. Not-for-profit dedicated to empowering young women for unserved communities. I want to mention that. Listed on the US Bankers 25 Most Powerful Women in Banking and Finance for multiple years, one of the top 100 FinTech leaders in Asia. What is your advice to women working in FinTech today?
Well, I think it's my advice for everyone. In fact, it's follow your passion. It will lead you to the right place. Always take roles that'll teach you new things. Ask for help, rely on great people that are smarter than you, bring them into your team and develop those networks. And I think that will serve you very well. That will serve all of us well.
I mean, all fantastic pieces of advice. Do you think that the industry can be more supportive as a whole, or do you feel? I actually feel the industry is, for me anyway, certainly in experiences I've had, I feel quite supported. Do you think that have you seen sort of the trend changing over the years to support for women in financial services generally and in FinTech?
Absolutely. I think, it had ebbs and flows, shall we say. So, but I do think there's a focus of the boardroom on ESG. There's a focus, I think there's now, where investors are saying, look, we're only going to invest in companies where this is important and that you have a diverse workforce. And I think that's all leading positively in the right direction. I think one area where I think we could do better is in the startup space, where in the US, 40% of women, 40% of startup companies are founded by women. Of the companies that are founded by women, they deliver 10% higher cumulative revenue over 5 years than male-run companies, yet only less than 2% of VC funding goes to these companies. So that is a system that needs looking at, and I think there's something there that we need to do to change that. And particularly for women who want to start financial technology companies, it's very hard to do that on just a couple $100,000. If you have a big vision in the financial space, you're going to need more substantial funding than that.
Yeah. any advice on how to secure that funding, or how to sort of get in front of the right people? It's just, I guess it's the networking, all those points that you make, and having the good product and really believing in your product and having the passion behind it.
Exactly. And, I've, in my early seed round, it was largely done through, again, contacting senior leaders in an industry that knew me, had watched me in action, who trusted me. And so that's very important. And they were great advocates. And, so I raised, my first $1 million of financing from people who knew and trusted me and who worked with me. And that's very important, I think, for women founders. Then when you have a bit of your technology developed, then it's probably, when you have some interest, perhaps from some clients, then I think it's much easier to have those conversations with the institutional money. But I think it's very important. But still, 2% is just that. I can't explain that. That is astonishing to me.
It's astonishing and not enough. And I know that the Singapore FinTech Festival, for example, and MAS put a lot of effort and energy behind their focus on women, which is encouraging to see, as do a number of the other FinTech sort of organizations throughout the world. So hopefully we see that changing. But, have a great idea, have good networks, connect with the right people, be good at what you do. Those kinds of things. Right, we've got to wrap up in just a couple of minutes, Joyce. I knew it would go so quickly. Oh, I wish we could keep going. I want to end on bold predictions for the industry, for the future. We are in such uncertain times at the moment. There's so much going on socially, politically, health-wise, economically. What are your bold predictions for the future of FinTech and financial services, and for you and for EqualFuture Corp?
Well, my prediction is, again, that FinTech will continue to evolve to, I'd like to say, provide superhuman capabilities to individuals, whether it's like we're trying to do with, long cash flow models at your fingertips to do a retirement plan in minutes, using data and intelligent, having access to computing for any life decision that comes your way that you can handle at your fingertips. And then, of course, a bit of a bionic approach where you can session a human for those specific and very efficient conversations that you need to have. So I think that's all part of what we're doing. And I think that, I can do cash flow models for you on your phone for lumpy life events. And I used to do that for only the top 1% of my wealth management clients. And that was very expensive to do. And now everyone can have that very affordably on your phone. So I predict that that's going to continue. That type of approach will continue to drive great things for consumers across the industry. I think this whole focus on remote working and tapping into talent globally, no matter where they are, to help strengthen big companies and small companies alike. And I think it'll help create great flexibility as well.
I love it. Like accessibility and equality sounds like very much what you're all about. And you've provided that for certain percentage of the population, obviously in the past, and now it's very much for everyone. And I absolutely love that. Joyce, thank you for your time. I loved connecting again. And as I said, I wish it was in person, but hopefully next year, fingers crossed. Wishing you all the best with EqualFuture Corp. And thanks for joining me at the Singapore FinTech Festival.
Thank you, Chloe. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Chloe, thank you for leading that conversation, and Joyce Phillips there, being an inspiration to women founders all over the world. That was the story behind EqualFuture, and we hope to see more progress as they continue to help the underserved build stronger financial lives.